Hola amigos, and I want to talk about a certain film that was funded by a three-letter agency. The CIA funded many media throughout the Cold War, since the Cold War was a political fight between the Soviets and the US. Capitalism versus communism, basically. So, from the Olympic Games, space race to proxy wars, the two countries attempt to prove that the other is better. And the US decided to also do side projects. The Fat Nutrition explains these very well, but a short summary is that the CIA had shell companies that will give money to artists so that they could create abstract art or other medias to combat communism. This would be like basically showing off freedom and freedom of expressions, things that communism doesn't really have. This film that I want to talk about is called Animal Farm. Pretty sure many people have heard of it, either in middle school or high school, but I mean, I'm gonna still explain the animation film of it. The creator is George Orwell, but that was his pen name, and his actual name was Eric Arthur Blair. His story is interesting, and I will leave that towards the end. So let's get started by talking about the film. We start with a narrator telling us how Manor Farm has gone downhill after the owner, Mr. Jones, becomes an alcoholic. Being abusive and not caring to his animals, the animals at night meet up to discuss a rebellion. Old Major, an old pig, is kind of like the de facto leader and tells the other animals should start rebelling. He thinks that all animals should rebel against the farmer since the farmer has been abusive, and he wants to inspire them to do that, to revolt so that they'll have a better life. He also starts saying that they should all remember that they're equal and that they shouldn't repeat the behaviors of their owners. After this speech, Old Major dies. But this idea now inspires the others to rebel. The first thing the animals do is open the door for their food because the owner, being neglectful, didn't give them food, so they decide to open it up themselves. But when they do it, Mr. Jones approaches them and tries to gain control of the animals, but will instead get chased out by the farm animals. And he will go to the bar, as any person will be after being chased, or get a few drinks. But actually, no, he just actually goes to the bar to get the other farmers and tells them that he needs help to gain control of his farm. This will be the first fight for the animals to fight for their freedom. And they fought the other farmers and they were able to win, but they did had some losses. Sadly, a dog passed away, and it was revealed they had puppies that were left inside the house. Other animals were also injured, like a pig, but at the end, they won. So they burn all the possession of Mr. Jones and some farm tools, and then they go in the house of Mr. Jones. And after looking around the house, they decide that they should make a rule that no other animal should go inside, basically. But Napoleon has other ideas, as he found the pups inside the house, and he decided to take them. Snowball and the other pigs are writing the rules down, so like the one no one goes into the house. But other rules like no animal should kill another animal, no one should consume alcohol. But the big important one at the end is that all animals are equal. The animals now begin the structuring the farm they want. With equality and other stuff, they all work together. So each animal does something, but the pigs are the only ones that just seem to supervise. They just seem to be managers or supervisors to the other animals. Napoleon and another pig are working, but instead of sharing the product, they take it themselves and don't share to the community. This is an example of why communism cannot work really, as people are flawed. And the pigs show that as they don't share, they decide to take it themselves. So even with some drawbacks, the farm is doing better than before. The animals are making more crops and are eating well. The pigs are mainly leading the other animals, and Snowball is being the de facto leader. He records and tells the animals about the progress of the farm. The next move for the animals is to ask other animals to join them. So they send out birds to spread the word. Some animals do, some animals don't. But after these, the animals will attempt to now have an education. The pigs are basically the teacher, and since they weren't really working, they were more studying and getting more of education while the other animals work, so they became the teachers. While teaching though, not all animals are the same, and some can't really learn the same way as the pigs did, so they don't really pursue this route. Snowball, the pig that we talked about before, he's now creating a blueprint and he wants to make a windmill. Napoleon, on the other hand, he's been checking the dogs that he took from the house and they have been growing up. So time has passed and Snowball is now finishing up his plan about the windmill. But Napoleon oversees that. Snowball doesn't know that. Snowball sets up a meeting and he starts telling the other animals that electricity is the way that they should go to. They should try to make it, and it will help them be in a luxurious spot. They will get luxury with it. But he tells them that the cost will be hard work, but it will be worth it. But Napoleon disagrees during this meeting, saying like, boo, it's not gonna work. You suck. The animals agree with Snowball, and they do like his plan. But just like how Napoleon is based off Stalin, Napoleon calls his guard dogs and sets them out to kill Snowball. Now becoming the tyrant, since he has the dogs to guard him, he says that Snowball was a traitor to the farm and that he has a plan, and it's the windmill. He claims it as his own idea, because Snowball didn't say that he wanted to make a windmill. He just said he wanted the animals to aim for electricity. The animals begin to work on the windmill, and the pigs just sit back and supervise again. The animals ate less since they want to ration the food as they build the windmill, but the pigs are able to make a way that they get to eat as much as they want. Boxer is a horse, and he is the symbol to the other animals, as he is the strongest horse and works the most, especially with his friend Benjamin, a donkey. He works later than the other animal, and him and Benjamin discover something, that the pigs have been going into the house and sleeping in it. So the next morning, rumors are spreading. A new rule is created, and it is that no animals could sleep under a blanket, basically allowing the pigs to be in the house. A trader hears about the farm and starts bringing products to the farm, and Napoleon agrees with the trade and accepts his offers. The pigs will give the eggs from the chicken to the trader, and when the other animals saw it, a pig tells them that nothing was gained, and the hens should feel privileged to have their eggs taken. After this, the hens plan to rebel, and they do rebel when the pigs try to take their eggs the next time. But then Napoleon sends the dogs, which also attacks a cat for just being like in a corner. The cat didn't really seem to do anything. It was more of the chickens. So after this, Napoleon calls the hens traitors and tells the other animals that if there are traitors to come forward, which a couple of animals did. And after that, the animals were killed and a new rule was set. No animal should kill another animal without cause. Time passes again. Trades continue. The windmill is finally finished. The trader decides to count his money in the bar, where the other farmers see, and they decide that they want to take over that farm since they're just dumb animals there. So the farmers go there and they push Mr. Jones away, saying that he already tried, he failed, so he's not going to join the fight. The animal sees the farmers and they were prepared, and the second fight begins. This time many animal dies and Boxer was shot in the leg, and once the farmer won, Napoleon, who was in the house the whole time, gives himself a medal. And Mr. Jones the whole time actually came into the fight, but not really. He was heading towards the windmill, where at the end of the battle it explodes and Mr. Jones is gone. The animals begin to rebuild the windmill while the pigs are lazy and staying home. Boxer, while injured, and Benjamin, his friend, continue to overwork, but one day Boxer will be struck by a rock that will not kill him, but he wouldn't be able to work anymore. Animals thought that he was going to be able to have a retirement, but the pigs call in a death wagon, and instead of a veterinarian to treat Boxer, it was a death wagon, and it turned him into glue. Sad and angered, the animals ignore a pig who was claiming that he was sad for Boxer and that Boxer's last wish was that they need to continue the windmill, which the donkey and other animals knew that was BS. After this, another time skip happens. The windmill is done. The farm seems to be doing well, but it's far from reality. The pigs wear clothes, drive in cars now, and walk on too. And with these, the final rule has been set, which is that all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. The donkey, seeing the pigs from a window, sees them no different from humans, and this is where the book ends. But this is not where the animation film ends. Nope. This is a depressing note in the book, that the animals repeated history basically, and that they lost their rights. But in the film, the good ending basically occurs, and the animals revolt once again. Luckily, the guard dogs that were guarding Napoleon were drunk, so it left the pigs defenseless, and they will meet their fate from the workers, like the donkey and the other animals. It's obvious that this film is propaganda. Even without hearing that it was funded by the CIA, it was kind of obvious. I think the movie is interesting as historical figures are represented. Like an example is Karl Marx is Old Major, the first pig. Napoleon is Stalin, and Snowball is Leon Trotsky. I don't know how to pronounce it. But that guy helped establish the Soviet Union until he was executed, most likely by Stalin. The animals, of course, are the Russians during the Soviet Union, since they were the working class. And Stalin controlled with fear, and this shows in the film multiple times with Napoleon. The CIA, of course, wanted these films to be against communism since communism was spreading through the countries. So when the CIA heard about the book and it was the end of the World War II, they approached the second wife of the author to see if they could have rights to the book so that they could make it into a film, having people who are used to Korean propaganda direct the film. Of course, again, this was the war against communism. There's other medias that the CIA did to go against communism. This is a little side tangent, but I always think that communism is not like real communism in a sense in it. Not in a sense that this wasn't real communism. It's more of socialism, which is supposed to lead to communism, which always annoys me for some reason. It's just a little nitpick. Communism overall is just something that might never be attainable since humans are just flawed in general. And no one wants to give up power. So the first step is socialism, which means the government has power. But then which type of government will give up their power? I don't think anyone would. But that's a side note. Overall, the story I think is simple and it's very effective on how giving up freedom and revolting but not learning from the mistakes will end up repeating the downfall. I think even though it's from the 1954, it still holds up and a quick watch wouldn't hurt. It's still enjoyable, and I think I don't really think it's that disturbing as people make it to be. As I said earlier, the author of the book is George Orwell, but his real name is Eric Blair. Born in India in 1903, he was a political writer and had multiple jobs, including police, military, bookseller, teacher, many things. But when he was writing books, he would change his name and have a pet name because he didn't like that. Well, first, he didn't like his name. Me either. Who doesn't? And to avoid embarrassing his family. Relatable too. Both of those are relatable. He did go to college. Throughout his life, he would write the experience down and usually it will become a book. An example is like when he joined the Spanish Civil War, he will make a book relating to it. The Spanish Civil War was when Spain had two factions fighting for control. It was the Nationalists versus the Republicans. The Nationalists were getting resources from Germany. You could probably tell which type of Germany. While the Republicans were getting help from the Soviet Union and other countries. Some sources say that the Republicans were part of a Marxist movement and that Stalin didn't really like them, but they were still getting resources. During the war, Eric will actually get shot in the neck, badly injured, but it didn't get an artery and categorized instantly. During that time, people who get shot in the neck usually die, but this guy didn't. He didn't thought much of communism at first, but over time when commies thought of him as being a fascist, he disliked them. With the aid of his wife, they would leave Spain, and since he was being called a traitor, he didn't really like communism anymore. So time passed and World War II starts, but he will be considered unfit to go to war. But he still gives options for the military for if they want his service. He will join the Home Guard. This is a group that allows volunteers to join the war when they are rejected by the military. Eric didn't really like Stalin, and he was disgusted when Stalin was part of the Allies. This is just a paraphrase, but he calls him a murderer and that his actions were forgotten, and now he's an ally in the war. This part explains why he made Napoleon an animal farm the way he is. After a while, he will get work from the UK military, and it will just be to stop propaganda from the Axis power. So time passes again, and he will leave due to medical reasons. And this will be when he starts working on Animal Farm. So when the book was finally finished, it was ready to be published on 1944, but it was not picked up by any publisher because they thought it was an attack on the Soviet Union. which was an ally at the time. Someone will finally agree to publish the book, but then a Soviet agent would influence that publisher to not publish the book. Blair was offered to go to a front line and report anything he sees, and he will agree to this, and he will go out and be a reporter. While gone, his wife that helped him through Spain and others would sadly pass away through surgery. After he was done reporting, he will return and the book will finally be published in 1945. And he also will kind of move quickly on his relationship status. He had tuberculosis and bronchitis, and it was getting worse, so the doctors gave him medicine for it, but he will have a rare side effect that will make him allergic to it, which that sucks. Blair will actually get a second wife in 1949, and people have mixed opinion on it, since some say that she was only with him for his fame, while others were saying that no, she actually made him happy. But at the end, Blair was happy having her. They even had their wedding in the hospital. Then eventually he will pass away due to an artery burst at the age of 46. I think it's interesting knowing the author of books and what inspired them to make it. And knowing the background of Animal Farm, now I could see why the author made the book. I didn't know much about the author until I decided to research about him. And looking at the history, it's important to see and how people were thinking. And it is interesting to see that some of the allies of the Soviet Union didn't look at them as allies even in World War II. Not speaking for all though. It's interesting that the movie was created in 1954 and that it still holds up today in my opinion. And it is still surprising for the length of it and the production of it. Alright, well, that's the end of the video. I have nothing else to say. If you have a random fact about this movie, leave it down in the comments. And I hope you enjoy. Subscribe and like. And adios.